Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Online Course Creation Summit. And we're talking about something today that is so important before you do so many other things in your course. It's really tempting to hit the ground running, but you have to have all those components in place before you get started. And it's all in a name, right? You have to be able to reflect back on having a name that communicates the value, communicates what's in the product, and is also something that's memorable and easy to market with. So I'm excited to talk to our guest tonight and have her present some wonderful information about this super important topic. So welcome, Brittney. And why don't you start off by telling everyone a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Hi, everybody. I'm Brittney, and I'm a digital designer and business strategist. I help people with their brand and help them with foundational business principles to build into their business at the very beginning so that as they continue to grow and scale up, everything continues to be consistent and make sense for them.
That's perfect. So I'm going to hand it over to you to present all the great material that you have for us.
Okay, wonderful. I'm going to share my screen here. All right. Can you see me, Laura?
Yes, it's perfect.
Great. Okay. Names are hard. Choosing a name for your course. I talk a lot about names and slogans and branding in my business, in my courses, in my Facebook community. And this is a topic that comes up a lot, whether you're naming your business or you're naming your course. Names are really hard, and it takes a lot of brainstorming and tossing back and forth and being really clear on who you are, first of all, as a business person or as a business and what you're offering before you start choosing course ideas and then ultimately choosing a name for that course. And so I just want to kind of give you an overview of the things that you need to consider when choosing a name. And before you ever get to the course name, there's a couple things you need to be clear on. The very first thing that you need to be really clear on is your audience and your niche. The second thing is your course idea and ultimate message. And then you get to focus on the name and slogan, but you don't get to stop there. You have to keep moving forward and research the name and then validate it. And so without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump into the and really, we're going to go through the first couple points pretty quickly so we can get into the choosing the course name process. But you can't really do that until you cover and get clear on your audience and your niche. So, naming your course isn't about you. Ultimately, it's about your audience and what they like and what they need. And a lot of times this isn't an intuitive thing for people when they're first naming their course. They're thinking about, does it go with my brand? Does it go with my field? Do I like it? And for some people, they don't know to think about their audience. And this is just kind of a novel, like, oh, it should be about what they like, not necessarily what I like. And so just want to introduce that idea to you if you've never thought of that. Be thinking about your course name from their perspective. What is it that they are looking for? What is their pain point? And so a way that you can get clear on your audience and your niche is by figuring out your strengths and figuring out who you're talking to. I have offered a free course called Mark Your X, How to Find Your Strengths-Based Niche. It's a course, it's a 5-day course, and it just basically helps you figure out who you are as a business and as a person, and what you're providing to your audience to best serve them based on your gifts and strengths. And then it helps you narrow down who your audience is and why. And then by doing that, you end up choosing a better audience and niche, and therefore a more brilliant course idea to serve them. And so you can do that. It's free. It's on my site. And so after you've gotten clear on those things, and it doesn't take a whole lot of time. Some people can get clear on that in a day. Some people, it takes them a little longer. It's up to you and the pace that you're looking to go at. But then you get to jump into your course idea and message. And so if you're at the point of naming your course, you've probably already thought through this, but for those who haven't, once you know who your audience is, you need to know what's troubling them. What is the pain point? And then you need to provide a solution, result, or benefit to that problem or pain point. A lot of ways to do this is to figure out, you can talk to your audience directly through polling or organic interactions, blog comments, and blog posts where people comment back. Those are excellent ways to figure out like what people are talking about, what they appreciate. If you end up hearing crickets, it's probably a good indicator that it's not something that's really bothering them or that they have a lot of interest in. But if you post something and you're getting all kinds of interaction on it, that is a pretty good indicator that people care about that particular topic. But ideally, you already know what you want to do for a course idea, and you've done the preliminary research to know it's a good idea. And so the way that you make that course truly yours is by choosing a good name. And a lot of times people are teaching courses on something that's already been taught on before. And that's okay. You can choose to teach on a topic that somebody else has taught on. It doesn't matter if it's watercolor or if it has to do with marketing or if it has to do with branding or if it has to do with music. It can be anything, but you're the one teaching it. And so how do you make it unique? You choose a good name that goes with your brand and your business. And so the next thing you want to think about is your course message. And so it makes sense to start there when you're starting to think about your course name and work up. And so the course message is essentially the who, what, and why of your course. And you've already decided on the who by focusing on the audience and niche. You've already taken time to do that. So the next thing you need to focus on is the what and why elements. And then you need to learn how to apply them here in order to create your course message, which should look something like this. This course provides who with what, because why. And so an example of what that would practically look like in a sentence would be, this coding course provides young women with basic HTML coding language instruction and easy to use starter code snippets, because coding isn't just for guys. Or it could be anything else, but you want to be able to put in a sentence concisely who the course is for, what it is you're providing them a solution to, and why. And review of the pain point is the why. And so let's dig a little bit more into the what. This is the perk or the advantage or benefit of your course. And it needs to be very specific. What is it the thing that is going to set you and your course apart? You don't want to just offer live webinar coding courses. That's really bland. Anybody could do that. You want to offer live interactive courses that comes with office hours, with that day's lesson delivered straight to their inbox. They're going to have actionable steps given to them. This is going to be something they can do while they still have a day job. That's very specific, and you want to get very specific because you're appealing to a certain type of audience member. So make sure you take time to get very clear on this message part of your course, because that's going to end up impacting the name of your course. And then the second part that we needed to get clear on was the why. Again, this is the pain point, the struggle, or the problem that your audience member or your client potentially is facing. And so in the coding example that we used a minute ago, the pain point could be that young ladies are intimidated by the male-dominated field of coding, or perhaps all the gobbledygook looks really confusing and they're scared that they'll mess up their whole site if they touch it or use it. Or perhaps they don't understand the power of a small HTML tweak or the power of GIFs. So this HTML coding course provides young women with basic HTML coding, language instruction, and easy to use starter snippets because why? And so depending on what your audience's pain point is, that's what you're appealing to, but the what that you're providing is the same. And so this is important to keep in mind for maybe relaunching. Maybe the first time you launch your course, you are launching it to a certain pain point section of your audience. And then the second time you tweak it and you're appealing to a different type of pain point and you're getting new clients and new audience members engaged. So once you are clear on your what and your why, you get to do the fun part, which is the name, and if you want, a slogan. I'm going to take a quick drink of water. So, what's in a name? A lot, actually. Course names are funny things. There are many people and companies whose names are famous because they have a quality product, but there have been many companies with quality products that you've never heard of because their name was hard to say or didn't represent the company or product well. There are also businesses with great names but really crappy products. And a good name can only carry you so far, but a bad name with a great product could limit your success if you don't consider it well. And so we're here today to help you guys consider it well, since there are probably things you haven't thought of, like cease and desist letters from folks who don't like you using their federally trademarked name as your own. And that would be a really serious downer and complication. It's as much of a downer as folks trying to steal your name because it isn't registered or trademarked. But it isn't stealing if it isn't formally made yours, so you could lose all of your hard work legally. So you want to make sure that you do your name and your slogan the right way from the beginning. Just to clarify, I'm not a lawyer. This is easy to access public information you can find out there, but you need to understand that there could be some very real repercussions if you don't choose a name wisely. So 6 things you should consider in a name. Now, again, this process, we're applying it to courses, but you can apply it to your overall brand. You can apply it to your overall business. You can apply it to a lot of things, master classes, packages for coaching, packages for other types of products or services. And so the first thing you need to consider when choosing a name for your course is you need to like it. I wish this was a no-brainer, but sometimes it's just not. You, the owner and creator of your course, have to be able to get behind it and love promoting the name. Don't just come up with it because you think others will like it or because it seems like an obvious choice, but you don't really like it. I'm actually working with a client right now who is struggling to pick a name. There are people who are telling her that it needs to be more corporate, but she wants to be a little bit more relaxed. And so how do you get behind something that you really love when there's a lot of voices telling you, maybe it should be this or maybe it should be that? Ultimately, you need to like it. An example of this is my own course, Business Base Camp. This is a free course that I have, and it covers 3 foundational aspects of launching your business base camp, which have to do with branding, building your site, and business formation. I chose this name because I have a background in the outdoors, and I find a lot of business analogies are relatable to the outdoors and being an outdoor guide. And so I really like this name, and it encapsulates how I teach. And so it was a good fit for me. I liked it, and it made sense. Secondly, it needs to be easy. Just KISS, for this one, if you've ever heard this acronym, keep it simple, silly, or keep it simple, stupid. You just want to make sure that it's really easy. Easy to pronounce, easy to remember, easy to understand. If not, you should scrap it. And to demonstrate how naming a course is similar to branding your business, I wanted to use a book blog example. There's a gal I know, her name's Rayanne, and she wanted a name that would represent her chattiness and flowery writing style. Purple prose is a recognizable and common descriptor for writers and readers. It denotes overly flowery language, like not in a good way. And we use that idea as a guide to come up with an alternative to the loquacious bibliophile, which is hard to spell and know what it means. And her new name, which is Lavender Prose, was a lot more scalable and did not limit her topics to just reading books, but also writing them as well. And so, again, for naming your course, if you're trying to teach a course on book blogging or writing, loquacious bibliophile would have been a very difficult name to spell, and it's not very easy. And so lavender is a whole lot easier. It's a lot more common. And so it makes sense to switch to something that's a little bit more familiar. Story and emotion. Okay, this is an interesting consideration when choosing a name. And kind of used this when I chose the name of the title for this talk. Names are hard. Evoking an emotion from the title of your course. So it's not a good fit for everyone. Stories and emotions are powerful, especially as marketing tools, and you can build that into your course name. I think this applies well to Erin Flynn's course, PS, Bright Soon, How to Follow Up with Past Clients and Stop the Hustle. So this course is specific to freelancers and plays on the emotions of the exhaustion of the freelance hustler. She meets the problem of the hustling with a simple solution: how to follow up with past clients and secure future work with the clients you've already enjoyed working with. Her play on the PS indicates that this is an ongoing conversation and relationship. It involves emotions of a good client experience. And she explains how a simple follow-up email with a client you've enjoyed working with can create thousands of dollars in additional revenue, thus ending the hustling mentality and the exhaustion. So this is a really good example of evoking emotion via your course title. Your course name should be clever, but it still needs to be clear. So don't make the joke or play on words too very complicated. If you nerd out too hard, it could limit your audience. However, that could be precisely what you want to do. Maybe you want to filter out the posers and attract the real deal, kind of like the purple prose phrase we used earlier. Avid readers and writers would understand the term purple prose. Others may not get that if you're not in that world. And so just be careful if you choose to go this route. Pimpinette Growth is a great example of this. It's a play on the platform Pinterest, if you're familiar with that platform. And the purpose of the course is growing your following there. And so Pimpinette Growth is a very clever and very, very smart name for a course. Represent. How do you want your brand or your course for your brand for your course to be perceived? And the key to answering this question is first by knowing yourself. Again, going back to your niche, understanding your strengths, what it is that you're offering ultimately in your overall business plan, and knowing what your business is about. You should have a solid grasp on this if you're confident about your niche and your audience's needs. This course, Webinar Rockstar by Mariah Cause of Entrepreneur.co, matches the rest of her very edgy brand and alternative biz babe audience. It's clear that it's designed to help webinar newbies from being a nervous beginner to being a teaching pro on camera. And scalable. So will this name still represent you if you branch out of your current niche? Will it grow with you? You may currently focus on coaches, but could you use it for a different niche, say photographers? These two courses, Legal Nunchucks for Coaches and Legal Nunchucks for Photographers, was created by Rachel Rogers. And she took this route to be able to scale her content and her course content and the name. And so it's the same type of information. It's legal content, legal course stuff, and she's slightly tailored it, one for photographers and one for coaches. And so she was able to plan for success and growth by just keeping it simple and making it scalable. Now, this is optional. It's not necessary. You can have a slogan, just like what Rachel Rogers did with her Legal Nunchuck stuff. Self-defense for your coaching business. And it's clever. It's funny. Her stuff is hilarious. If you are intimidated by legal stuff, you should look at it. But a slogan is simply a soundbite of your course message. It's your motto. It needs to be succinct and concise and somewhere upfront and visible on your website or your course sales page so that people know if you're talking to them and what you're offering them. And again, the last course had a great one. But if you're stuck on slogans or what that should really look like, you can check out these slogans for inspiration for your course name. You know, the top left is Think Different by Apple. Aston Martin is Power, Beauty, and Soul. That one's a little bit more of a tagline, but again, slogan, tagline. Those are things that, in a nutshell, encapsulate your course message and reflects your course name. Harley Davidson, American by birth, Rebel by choice. Of course, the Nike swoosh, just do it. And so once you've gone through all of your name picking and your slogan and being clever, overly clever, getting it too complicated and scaling it back down, and you've found the name, right? Before you go slapping that course name and logo all over the web and social media, you need to do a little bit more research. You don't want to accidentally steal someone's name, because I know you would never do that on purpose, and be served with a cease and desist letter. That person can legally take all of your hard work, and you'd be very, very, very sad. And so research is an important step. There's two kinds of searches you want to do. Very simple before you take one more step in the branding process. The first one is the federal USPTO, the United States Patent and Trademark Office. And again, this is only applicable to you if you're in the United States. If you're in Canada or elsewhere, Europe, you will have different things that you'll need to look at. But it should get you thinking about that there's other things to consider other than just the name for your course. But the United States Patent and Trademark Office is an agency in the U.S. Department of Commerce that issues patents to inventors and businesses for their inventions and trademark registration for product and intellectual property identification. And so I know you guys have brilliant ideas for your courses to sell in the perfect name. Just make sure that somebody else hasn't already trademarked your perfect name. And you need to do search engines like crazy. Google, Bing, Yahoo, DuckDuckGo, Reddit, Tumblr. Type in your business ideas, your course names, type in variations of it. Just see what comes up. Make sure that someone hasn't taken that awesome name for your course. And some final thoughts for choosing a course name. Don't be afraid to reach out for feedback on your course name, either to your audience directly, because that is a great source of whether or not it's going to resonate with your audience if you ask them directly. And you can be stealthy and clever about how you ask them about different names, or other private community groups that you might be a part of. You can do market research via a Facebook poll or Twitter poll or email surveys from your own audience to see what resonates best there. Be creative. As you've seen from some of the examples, it doesn't have to be formal or stuffy or super obvious, like how to code 101, although obviously that could work if that appeals to your audience, just being very clear and direct. So I hope you guys have fun brainstorming for your course names and that you found this very quick but very, information-packed chat helpful. And I'm going to turn it back over to Laura.
Yeah, I thought it was so full of information, and you have a lot of really good gems in there. And one of them, that you just mentioned right now at the end is this idea of asking your audience, right? Like you already have a group of raving fans, even if you don't have like an email newsletter or something, who your ideal clients are, or maybe where they hang out. And this idea of asking them to help you either come up with ideas or to validate an idea that you have. Because I feel like, and you can tell me if you think that this happens, but I occasionally see people who get super excited about their course idea, but the idea doesn't actually communicate what the course is about. And that becomes like a consistent problem in their messaging, in their sales copy, in their branding, because people don't really know like what the problem is being solved. So are there tells or clues that you can look for that your title isn't that great, or that it's something you might need to reconsider?
Absolutely. Going back to being specific, when you're thinking through your course message, that is the place to pull out your telltale key points in your name, right? So you can get really specific and say how to grow an audience in 30 days, starting with 0 followers. It doesn't have to be a 3-word title. It can be a little bit longer and be very specific about the results, or very specific about the pain point, very specific about the benefit or the possibilities that your course is going to provide or reveal opportunity to you. How does this happen? This is possible for you too. And so pulling out the specifics that you were working through when you were figuring out your course message, pull your course message into the name. That's kind of the key, I think, to getting a name that resonates with an audience and says, ooh, that's me. I want to sign up for that course, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that stuck out a lot throughout the whole presentation is this idea of getting specific. And the one statement that you had about like choosing this tagline of information about what the course does and who it's for is so important. I think a lot of people overlook that and try to make things more complicated. But at the end of the day, like, what is the actual outcome or transformation or journey that you are taking your students through? What are they going to be able to to do or accomplish at the end of this course. And that's something really important to reflect on. Now, when it comes to the prospect, like let's say you created a course, you created an ebook or something like that, and the title wasn't that great the first time around. What process would you recommend engaging in if it's time to rebrand and come up with a new name? Are there certain steps you need to take? How do you distinguish that this is different and yet still the same material?
That's a good question. I feel like the steps are the same. You're going to want to go back and see what was the response. Were there crickets? Who were you talking to? Did you have a different audience the first time you launched it than you do the second time? Has there been any change in the interaction types? Have you garnered people that are now interested in that topic? I make lots and lots of lists when I'm thinking through names or working with clients to help them think through their names, whether it's for their business or their domain name, because, oh man, domain names are like a pain in the butt, right? Everybody has your domain name that you want.
Yeah.
Names as well. And so I make a ton of lists and I think through not necessarily even what is the benefit or result sometimes. Sometimes what is the feeling of, being able to accomplish that, or what's something associated with it that, I'm trying to think of an example right now. Totally drawing a blank. But for example, for someone who's a solopreneur and they're wanting to learn about systems and strategies, and they recognize that they're doing this by themselves, like something like solo flight, and kind of, building a plane as you're flying it is a feeling that might be associated with trying to figure it out all on your own. You're building this plane and flying it at the same time. And how do you overcome that? How do you relate to that feeling? And, just keep making lists and brainstorming, and don't just focus necessarily on what is obvious, but also what is associated. Colors, smells, emotions, feelings. Just keep making lists and recombining them until something just starts to click.
And really allow your creative side to come out with that too. Doodle, think about potential logos. Like some things are always going to have more traction with you than others. And those are sort of signs, right? Like that's a direction that you might want to consider going in, because certain things will just speak to you and open up this wealth of ideas. Oh, I could, my email headline to introduce this course could be X based on this idea of solo flight, or, are you ready to take off? Or when you start having all these ideas, that's a sign to go in the right direction. So when it comes to creating a name, what would you say are like the two biggest mistakes that you see people making over and over again when it comes to naming?
The two biggest, I'll start with the first biggest. And I think that they're not being specific enough. It's just very vague. And even in their tagline, and then as you continue to scroll down their sales copy page for the actual course for someone to enroll, there's no more information to help clarify. And so it's all very vague. It's all very generic. There's nothing that is, again, a reflection of them and who they are and what they're bringing to the table. So not being specific enough. And man, I have to think about the second. I'm not really sure. What would you say is a mistake that people do when they...
Well, I 100% agree with you on not being specific enough, because this idea of being vague, like I think some people are thinking, oh, simplicity is better, but it's like, no, I don't actually know what your course is or what I'm supposed to do in it. So it's not hitting me with that pain point. I think another one that I would say is like, it's too long. Like it's like 10 words, because then I can't, but it's just too long. It's too long for your domain name. It's too long for all the graphics that you want to make for it. So I would definitely say that that's one of them. But you're so right. Like this challenge of, okay, I have to come up with an idea for a name. I have to like it. It has to be something someone hasn't done exactly before. I don't want to violate anyone's copyright. Then I've got to see if the domain name is available. And it's this whole process. And so maybe, we just kind of want to reiterate that everybody goes through this process, and it's normal for you to have like a great idea and then discover that domain name is taken and some reseller wants $39.95, almost $4,000 to sell it. It's okay to come to terms with the emotions of that. And like, there's definitely been times when I came up with like a great idea and for one reason or another, it just didn't pan out. So being friendly with yourself that if you're experiencing these kinds of challenges, that's okay. And you may have to go through 3, 4, 5 names before you settle on something that really sticks. So I just want to thank you so much for being here, because there was a lot of really excellent information in here, and it's all too easy to overlook this idea of a name, because it seems like, oh yeah, but it's all about the material, or it's all about my sales page, or it's all about how I'm going to enroll people. And yes, those things matter, but your name should communicate a lot of things. And this is going to be something that ideally is going to be on your email list. It's going to be in webinars. It's going to be all over your website. So you definitely do want to put some time and some thought into it. And you gave great action steps with examples of how to do that. So I just want to thank you again for being here and for providing such great information that any course creator needs, whether new or experienced.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. I have a ton of fun talking about this stuff and brainstorming, and I
Yeah.
think it's a lot of fun. It's good fun.
You could tell it was awesome.